So welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us here today. My name is Rabbi Gabi Kaufman. I'm Rabbi of the Ark Center, and I am extremely excited to be presenting together with the JCCV and our presenter, Sharona Blum, Self-Care in Challenging Times, How to Be Kind to Yourself During this Pandemic of COVID-19. Now, I'm very excited to introduce our presenter today, Sharona, who is a great friend of mine. I have a social working background, and so does Sharona, funnily enough. She has been a social worker for the past 30 years, and she's currently the social worker for the southern region of Bolton Clark, which was formerly the RDNS, the Royal District Nursing Service. She is also, on top of that, because she's not busy enough, a social worker for Ramsay Health at Masada Hospital, and has worked at Epworth, Richmond for many years, as well as our very own Jewish care. And on the side, because she just has that much time, she's a guide at the Holocaust Center and a mother, a mother for beautiful children. She's incredibly involved in our own Jewish community as well as outside our community. And I am just ecstatic to be here with everybody today. It is indeed turbulent and challenging times. And one of the most important things for each and every one of us is managing our self-help. As a rabbi in a community, I'm constantly speaking to people. And the first thing a few weeks ago now what was bothering people was the economical impact to their lives, which was absolutely disastrous. People were being let off, people's superannuations were shrinking, and it was incredibly stressful as well around the time of Pesach. And I did a lot of pastoral care and a lot of counseling for people within the community. Now what I'm seeing that it's even worse because of the economical impact, but now with the isolation, that there's only a certain amount of routes around your street you can walk. Going to Coles isn't exactly an excursion anymore. And even though restrictions are lifting, they're not lifting fast enough. So it's taking a huge psychological impact on each and every one of us, including our families. And what's funny is, as a rabbi, I constantly look for things that I can find within our book, with the people of the book, within the Torah. And I'll go back to the story of creation just very quickly. And when God created the world, every single day he said, whether it was the birds, the trees, the seas, the sun, star, moon, what did he say? He said, Tov. That it was good. He created the birds and the trees, Tov. Created the sun, moon, sun, he said Tov. Tov in Hebrew means good. When he created human beings, when he created man, Adam, he said, it's Tov me'od. It is very good. But then the Torah takes a bit of a turn and it says, Lo tov yeh adam levado, that it's not good for man to be alone. And he took from Adam, from his thigh, and he created Eve. Why? The first real negative thing that we see in the Torah was what? That it's not good for man to be alone. We are social creatures. We're used to being together with people. And now, in this isolation, it's tough for each and every one of us. So I'm really looking forward to this slideshow, to Sharona helping us, how we can improve our self-care, even with the exercise and even, within our own families, just taking care of ourselves. Because we see from the Torah, it's not good for man to be alone. Thank you so much, Sharona, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Gabi, for that lovely introduction. Although it was all lies, I'll take it. Thank you, and thanks for JCCV for inviting me to give this talk. Okay, so Gabi gave a very good introduction as to what I'm talking about today. So I've just got some things about self-care, and maybe in your own mind, think about what self-care means to you. So it could be taking care of your mind and your thoughts, taking care of your physical health and body, increasing your own well-being through self-care behaviours, spiritual health, which is another topic for next week, and taking care of your emotions. Okay, I really like this quote because I think it sums up the whole idea of self-care. An empty lantern provides no light. Self-care is a fuel that allows your light to shine brightly. So if you don't take care of yourself, you're not able to give to others. So a lot of what COVID-19 is bringing up, you know, with my clients and other people, friends, family, is anxiety. So feelings of anxiety are common during the uncertainty of, you know, coronavirus, COVID-19. So during this talk, I hope to provide you with some tools and resources that can help you deal with this stress and can be easily accessed by anyone. Okay. So when we think of self-care, it's a shame it's not interactive because I would have liked the audience to give me some ideas of what they consider self-care.
I must say, Sharona, that we will leave it open to questions at the end. And please, if anyone would like to write it down or do something anonymously, they can do so in the chat bar.
Okay, great. Thank you. So basically, in my mind, self-care refers to the activities and practices that we choose to do on a regular basis during COVID, to enhance our health and well-being. So it helps us, self-care helps us to prevent stress and anxiety, putting activities into our lives, incorporating them, things that make us feel good, socialising, which now has been very restricted by the social isolation we've all been experiencing, but even things like going for a walk, doing things like yoga, exercise, so you can rejuvenate both your mind and your body. So giving yourself time for yourself and doing things like good sleep, nutrition and activities that you enjoy brings more balance to your daily life and helps to deal with, you know, the stresses in your life. So I'll talk a bit more about that. So there's a saying, and everyone who's been on an aeroplane would have heard this many times: please put on your oxygen mask before helping others. So it's an important rule on aeroplanes, but it's also a useful phrase to remind us about the importance of self-care. If you don't look after yourself first, you won't be able to help others or help yourself and others, which is very important. So, and when life is busy or when things are happening like COVID-19, when life's not, you know, you're not in the routine that you usually are, people think that taking time for themselves is indulgent. But I think now, especially during this time, looking after your own well-being will help you get through this challenging time. Okay, so I'm talking a little bit about how to create your own self-care plan. So, I mean, I think you'll be able to get a copy of this, or, you know, we can distribute this if people want this in writing, but things like evaluating your coping skills. So that's the first point. You look at your own habits, and that will be a way of determining a plan that will suit your lifestyle. So think about how you deal with life's demands, you know, work, children, elderly parents, for example. Lots of different things impact on our lives. So it's important to identify when you need to take a break, and that's what many of us can't do. We'll often take the phone call. We often won't make ourselves a cup of tea or coffee when we need it. So that's really important to, you know, realise what you need at that particular time, and if it's possible, then you do it. When faced with challenges, we can either use positive or negative coping strategies. So on this next slide, I'll give you some examples of what positive and negative, and you can think which you usually employ for yourself. So sometimes we'll do a mixture of both, but for positive ones, for example, deep breathing, listening to music, exercising, meditation, reading, connecting with others, engaging in a hobby. Religion is also very important to some people. They might find, you know, going to synagogue or praying is a very positive thing for them. Some negative behaviours can be things like yelling, smoking. I'm not sure. So if some people still choose to do that, I'm not going to judge. Pacing, skipping meals, alcohol to excess, withdrawing from your friends, and biting fingernails, which I am doing at the moment. I'm not a very good example. But it's important to be honest when evaluating your behaviours. So if you find it hard to cope with a situation, or you're feeling angry or snappy or anxious, you can do some breathing exercises, which I will talk about a bit later in this presentation. And it may be a good time to reevaluate your coping skills. You take them, oh, sorry. So, sorry, I've just lost my place here. So take a moment to consider what you value and need in your life, and think if they're applicable during this difficult time. It may not seem like the right time to be planning, but you know, if you have a plan in place, it may reap the benefits for the future. And self-care extends beyond the physical. It could also include your psychological, emotional, spiritual, social, and financial well-being. All right. So, sorry. Okay. So the step 3 would be to reflect, examine, and replace. So reflect on what your existing coping strategies are, what you have identified, what's working for you and what isn't. Keep the helpful tools, the things that are helpful to you, and try and put aside anything that's not. Think about the barriers to maintaining self-care. So, for example, if you're used to going out and having a coffee with a friend in a cafe, it's a bit difficult now, but maybe you could set up a walk with a friend and get a takeaway coffee or something like that. So you can modify things according to the circumstances. Examine how you can address these barriers and start taking steps towards incorporating new strategies for, you know, that will be able to assist with your health and well-being. And you can also replace the negative with some positive. So if you find yourself using negative strategies, find ones that you feel would be more positive for you. So that's a really important part of your self-care. So, for example, things like, you know, I'm incorporating a lot more, you know, meditation and exercise and things into my life rather than focusing on the really stressful parts. So that's just a small example for me. But once you've determined your personal needs and strategies, you can write them down. It can be a simple plan or a detailed plan. And the next few slides are actually giving an example of a plan. You may choose to keep a plan on your desk, or you can carry a simple version with you or on your phone, or, you know, just on a small piece of paper that you put in your wallet or purse. And you can look at it regularly and refine it as the situation with COVID-19 develops. All right, so these are just some of the looking back to what I've just spoken about, identifying your needs. For example, you know, physical, you know, to do with nutrition and good sleep habits and regular exercise, things like that. So you can think about what you do currently. And for example, you can look at trying some, you know, maybe if you're interested in something like Pilates or yoga, there are lots of online forums now, and maybe when things start to get back to normal, you might be able to do them face to face. Emotional, you know, things like speaking to someone, if, you know, having a good friend maybe you can talk to, speaking to someone like a health professional, which I'll also cover down, and try and express your emotions in a healthy way. Spiritual could include, you know, self-reflection, spending time in nature. Now that we're able to get out a bit more, maybe going for a walk in the park or on the beach. Meditate, inspirational literature, things like those are really good to look at doing while we might have a bit more time on our hands. Professional in terms of work, as I said before, if you've got a full day of meetings online and you really need that coffee, try and just go into your kitchen, make yourself a cup of coffee, or if there's a phone call coming that's not urgent and that you feel you could call the person back later because you're not able to deal with it at the moment, then that would be a good strategy. Just not to overtax yourself if possible. Social, as I said, it's been difficult. We're not having, you know, some people haven't seen their elderly parents for, you know, during the course of this COVID-19. So a lot of people have been Zooming or, you know, but now hopefully you can make more time seeing family and friends if possible. And ask for support from family and friends if you feel that they're able to give it to you. Financial, I know a lot of businesses and individuals are going through a lot of financial stress. People might have their work hours reduced or not be able to, or don't have a job at the moment. I mean, things like speaking to your accountant or a financial counsellor or the banks or something like that would also be useful if you feel they may be able to help you. Psychological, disconnect from electronic devices. For example, I keep Shabbat and I just wait for the day, Friday afternoon, when we can switch off our phones and have them off till, Saturday night. And it's amazing how my kids cope without their devices, and we have a lot more good family time together. So I think that's something that's, works well for us, but you might want to limit your devices for an hour or something if possible. So, just to have a more clear perspective. Emergency self-care, so things like now when we're faced with a health crisis, basically, we need to look at our plan and maybe modify them. So things like relaxation and staying calm, what activities help you to relax? So as I mentioned, the deep breathing or the walking, and what make you more, which are unhelpful behaviours such as, yelling, swearing, drinking, just for an example. Self-talk I find sometimes really helpful, especially before this talk when I thought, oh no, I'm not going to do so great, but I had a good talk to myself and hopefully I'm doing okay. Harmful self-talk, when you think, oh no, I can't handle this situation, but human beings are very resilient, and you'd be surprised with what people go through and come out amazingly through the other end. I mean, everyone's had their trials and tribulations, and hopefully people, get through them a stronger person. Social supports, which family or friends can you reach out to for help and support, and who are the people that you need to avoid who might put more, burden on you because they need a lot more assistance. Mood, which activities boost your mood? Music, for example, just looking outside at the sunshine where there is some now, and things that you should avoid if you find that they're not helpful to lift your mood. And this is just what you can do for yourself. Very simple self-care plan, divided up into your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, and your relationships, and write down what is working for you and what you need to address. So another thing you can do if you don't have a lot of time is just talk about the top coping strategies that you've used in the past that are helpful, and things to avoid. So if there are any questions further, at the end of the presentation, I'm happy to answer them. There's an approach called settles. So in addition to self-care planning, you can find an approach called settles, and I'll go through it. So that helps to settle the mind. So S is to stay focused on the here and now, and if you're thinking too far ahead into the future, it can be very overwhelming. So we can try and look at taking one step at a time, which sometimes is difficult for people, including myself. Engage, stay connected and to family and friends and support work networks. Gabby, I've just moved the camera. Is that you can still see me? Yeah. So, okay, great. Thoughts are thoughts, so not necessarily facts. So be alert to your negative self-thinking, your negative thoughts, and try not to give them any power. Treat people with kindness, support others through this time of uncertainty, and hopefully, other people will do the same towards yourself. I remember at the beginning of COVID-19, we were watching the media all the time, and it was really stressful. So limiting information and time on unhelpful media can be helpful. Constant exposure to anxiety-provoking stories drives panic and uncertainty. Exercise, again, that's very important for me. So good physical health is critical for a healthy mind, good sleep, eating well, and working out. And if you need to seek help, that's really important as well. So I can, at the end of this presentation, I've listed some places where you can go to seek help. All right. So now I'm just going to, I touched on anxiety at the beginning of the presentation, so I'm just going to talk a bit more about that. So even if we're not typically an anxious person, it's common to feel some anxiety during periods of change or uncertainty, such as now. And there are a few practical ways that we can help keep feelings of anxiety at bay. And that's just, I think this is a really nice slide about things that we can do: slow down, keep calm, be positive, take it easy, unplug. That's what I said, social media maybe for an hour or so. Enjoy life, try, have fun, breathe, relax, go outside, smile and meditate if that's something that you're interested in. All right, so the ways of managing anxiety include channel your anxiety into action. There might be a project that you've wanted to work on and haven't had time, or take up a new hobby. Like there's things like mosaic online, or learn to knit, or whatever that you're interested in, that this might be a good time to do it. Get informed, plan and prepare. So just, keeping abreast of what's on the media, but not to excess. Follow practical advices from trusted sources. So we're all looking at what Daniel Andrews announces will be the next step in, coming out of isolation and lockdown, and make a plan for what you need to do to look after yourself and your family over the next few weeks. As I said, limit unhelpful media and misinformation. But if watching too much TV and listening to the radio makes you more anxious, and limit this. Stop or limit behaviours that fuel your anxiety, and keep track of when your anxiety actually increases. So if it's related to certain things like, searching coronavirus on Google, or panic buying, or talking to someone that, makes it more stressful for you than not, then these are the things that we can, limit. Be aware of negative thoughts. Notice when you're worrying, try and step back. Stay connected to supportive people in your life. Try new ways of connecting that you haven't before. So maybe Zoom, this might be, I know for my mum, for example, this is the first time she's been on Zoom, so this might be a good, way for future to log into other Zoom meetings and get some information about different topics. Try to focus on the here and now. Try and live for the moment, one day at a time, and looking after your body again. That is very important. Okay, helping other people and practice mindfulness. Okay, so I'm sure most of you have heard about mindfulness, and it's basically paying attention to the present moment with openness, curiosity, and without judgment. So especially at a time like this, it can be invaluable. It will help us navigate our thoughts and emotions more skillfully, and possibly help us make better decisions and respond better to different situations. It keeps us grounded. Mindfulness keeps us in the here and now and helps us notice how we're feeling. So if we're in immediate danger, for example, you have to deal with that. But if it's not immediate, take a step back and give your brain a break by settling and soothing your nervous system. And when we check back, we might be able to, be a bit calmer and able to look more objectively at a situation. All right, so there are many benefits of mindfulness: reduce worry, anxiety and distress, enjoy more energy, create a sense of calm, learn how to relax and regulate emotions, enhance awareness and creativity, improve concentration and increase productivity, develop a sense of empathy and connectedness, and enjoy better health and sleep. All right, so I'm not sure if people are into breathing exercises. This is just a really simple one that I often employ before a stressful event. Probably the more simple one is 3-1-4 rhythms. So if you breathe, you take 3 breaths, then you hold your breath for 1 count and breathe out for 4. And it just helps to get your breathing and just helps you focus on the here and now. So you notice your breathing as you slowly breathe in and out. You can imagine You have a balloon in your belly, and notice the sensation in your belly as the balloon inflates on the inhale and deflates on the exhale. For example, if you're not, if you need some help and if you're not coping, you can seek professional advice, either a counsellor. I mean, one of the main things that is helpful is speaking to your GP. People are eligible for a mental health treatment plan, which allows you to access up to 10 Medicare rebatable sessions per calendar year with a mental health professional, such as a psychologist or a counsellor. I know now a lot of counsellors aren't doing face-to-face consultations, but this may be able to be done online or by telehealth. And if you're also feeling, so that's to get in touch with a mental health practitioner, but I think your GP is a good port of call, and also the resources that I'm going to show you in a minute are also good places to get in touch with. I really like this quote because I think it sums up where we are at the moment. Be strong enough to stand alone, smart enough to know when you need help, and brave enough to ask for it. So a lot of people aren't used to asking for help, and I think now there's a lot of help available during this particular time. So I think, if you can, it's a good idea to ask for help if you need it. These are some resources. So as everyone knows, if there's an urgent emergency, then calling 000 would be the first port of call. But if it's not an emergency situation and you need help, you can call one of the crisis hotlines. Most of them, a few of them are 24 hours. So there's Lifeline, Beyond Blue, which deals with depression and anxiety. Carers Australia, I think a lot of people are carers for people, and it does take a lot of toll on them, and they feel like they can't ask for help. But Carers Australia is a really good resource, and you can get on their email and give them a call as well. And then there's a Black Dog Institute, which also deals with depression and anxiety. I'm doing quicker than I thought, but I'll add a few things later on. But I think this quote, I think, whoops, I've just lost it. I'll go back. This quote is a really good way of summing up things. So self-care. Self-care means giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. So by looking after yourself and employing some of the strategies that I've mentioned, I think you'll have a lot more energy to, take on the world in a sense and deal with what's going on. So there's some other useful things that we can look at. There's something called 4-3-2-1. So it's things like looking at nature and name 4 things that you can smell, or 3 things that you can see, or 2 things that you can touch, and 1 good thing about yourself. So these are just strategies that, if you're outside and negative thoughts start coming to you, you can just, focus on what's positive, focus on what's good with nature. The sun's shining, the grass is green. It's just something that might bring you back to, down to earth again, and, help you cope more with the anxiety. So I've gone through it quicker than I thought I would. So, Gabby, it's over to you, and maybe if there are any questions that have come up, we can go through them.
No. That's why I'm doing all my counselling at the moment is on the phone, but I'm asking. They've said to me that they can't give me the okay. Yes.
Sorry?
Well, I mean, I'm not an official carer, but you could say that I'm the only.
I'll unmute myself and I'll unmute you.
Okay, I don't know if that
I just heard some background noise. I was saying that thank you so much for this slideshow. It was fantastic. As human beings, as I mentioned earlier, we're constantly looking for connections. And when we reach out to one another, we're not just, helping ourselves, but we're helping that person. And by us making that connection, we're actually helping ourselves as well as that other person. So even though one of us might be dealing with something, whether it's anxiety and loneliness or loneliness, which I've come across now a lot, that people are just lonely. And loneliness can come in a whole different, many different ways. We could be sitting in a room full of people, our loved ones, even our spouses, and we can feel lonely. But there's also people that, because we're not socializing like we used to, they're literally lonely. Science, actually, I recently saw a study that's scientifically, loneliness can kill you. It's just as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And, with everything going on, we're dealing with loneliness. So if you are going through something, making that connection or just reaching out to somebody. And what's amazing is, because I've been doing these readings and also speaking to people, is that the playing field is the same for each and every one of us. So some of us might have had different psychological issues and so on before COVID-19, but now, if you didn't have something like that now, you might be dealing with it at the same time. So we can sort of relate to each other in a bit of a deeper way than we used to. Not to say in any way that everybody's issues are the same, and that different people obviously have different anxieties and different problems to deal with. But at the same time, we're all in it together, and we're all suffering. No one has been untouched by it. And by making a connection and reaching out, you might think that you're helping just yourself, but my friends and everybody here, Sharona, we're helping ourselves and the person that we're reaching out to. So, and it's a little bit like today that, there's 15 of us over here. We don't know each other, but we've reached out. And please unmute yourself, ask yourself, and ask a question, because as I mentioned earlier, lo tov yeh adam levado, it's not good for a person to be alone. We might be feeling alone, but please ask a question, make a connection here today with myself or Sharona, and let's try and help each other get through this.
And that's what I was suggesting, where it says we are all in this together, and that's that's a really good way to put it. So I'm open to take any questions from anyone, or you can disagree with anything I said, whatever you want to cover today. Has there anything come in, Gubby? Any questions so far?
No, not yet from the chat. But if someone would like to unmute themselves and ask a question, that's fine. Or else I've got more to say, but I'd love to hear from some of the participants today. Sharona, I got a call on a Saturday night. As a rabbi from the community, you dread those Saturday night calls. Mm-hmm. During the week, it's fine. They're usually quite parav, as we say, quite neutral. But on Saturday night, something's really wrong. And I received a call from a family. Their mother had passed away on Shabbat. And it was in the height of the COVID, and
all the restrictions.
Exactly, all the restrictions. And this lady, she was 98 years old, a matriarch in her right. She had children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. She survived German slave labor camps. And suddenly now, what are you going to tell them? 10 people, because of the COVID-19 restrictions, 10 people allowed in the chapel, and then 10 people plus a few extra outdoors at the actual burial. And one of the things that that's heart-wrenching, because this lady, this matriarch of this beautiful family, wasn't able to have the send-off that was really fitting for her. It was on a regular day. The chapel at the Chevra Kadisha would be packed. Hundreds of people would have been there to farewell her and send her off. But then there's something that it got me thinking. There's no Kaddish. There's no memorial prayer. There's no Shiva. There's no
grieving process.
No grieving. So if you think about it, the rabbis in Judaism, this has evolved over thousands of years. We see the grieving processes of the Jewish people. That week long of Shiva goes back to biblical times. Why? Joseph mourned for his father. This is in Genesis. Joseph mourned for his father for 7 days. That's where we took on the practice of Shiva, which literally means 7. And that Shiva, going to someone's house, giving them a hug or a handshake, a kiss, that physical contact, and saying, we might not have spoken on the phone for the past few months, but I'm here. I'm here to support you. What can I do for you? Over that week and that minion where we say those resounding amens together in the house, and we look at the mourner in the eye and we say, Hamakom Yenachem, we give them that blessing of goodwill, and we hope that you're okay, of comfort through their grief. Nothing, not even a shloshim. We can't even mark the 30 days as when we get together as family. And I've seen that besides for our day-to-day life, the upheaval of it, Jewish tradition, which has been in place for thousands of years, it's just gone out the window. Nothing, people have risen up, and there's been, strife and turbulence within the Jewish people and the Jewish culture, but nothing like this, which is, and so we're at home, we're sitting on our couches, and we're binging Netflix. Some of us, if we can, or just downloaded Stan. They say that at Amazon, there's a great new Holocaust fictional TV show that someone was telling me to watch. But there are people that are grieving, that are unable to see their friends and family. Now, it's really nice that you do a FaceTime, or we do a Zoom, or we do something like that, and there is Zoom shivers and things like that. They don't exactly. They don't take the place of going to someone's house, dropping off food, looking them in the eyes, giving them a warm hug and saying, I'm here, what can I do for you? And this is just, sorry, yeah.
No, that's, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to say that's what if I could take away anything from this talk, or my main message would be, connect with someone, seek some help if you need it. Yeah. I mean, and, from what Gubby says, it's so true about people being so isolated, especially now. And, I'm sure, the phone calls to all these helplines and things have really increased. But it is important that we seek help. And, yeah.
I think that's what we yearn sometimes. We yearn that attention, that craving of human connection. Sometimes every fiber of our body is reaching, screams out for it. And if you are feeling isolated, which we physically are, we are isolated. And even though that now the restrictions have gone, and how many times are we going to have 5 people in our house, and every day is that going to happen, or is that even healthy? And if God forbid there is a second wave, there is a third wave, God forbid, then we're all going to go back to square one. Then the financial, psychological impact of being, the light at the end of the tunnel, when we're touching it, we're right there. We see that light of now 5 people allowed. We can have, our Shabbos meal with our friends or family. I can go for a walk with my friend or 2 friends. But we have to put in place these coping mechanisms, especially during this time, and that's what's going to help you. And that's why, Sharona, incredible what you just put together for each and every one of us.
Sorry, it was shorter than I thought, but at least
no, not at all. I'm continue. I think it's just, listen, people are still with us, and I think it's just important, just having this conversation and just talking it out of what exactly is going on.
Self-care. It's so important. I am happy if anyone wants to, just contribute it. So you're all unmuted now. So someone just let us know.
They're able to unmute themselves. Yeah.
Can you see, I just want to ask, if I get an email, can you see that on the screen?
Yeah, if you share it, if you put it, you'll be able to see it on the screen.
No, if I just got an email in, for example, you couldn't see
that. No, you can't see that. No.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So,
I'm just encouraging people to just show us that you're there. If you found anything helpful, if anything triggered something for you, I mean, I can stay back and we can have a bit of a chat.
There's some chats. Hang on. There's some chats. Yeah. Hang on.
All right.
No worries. I realized that initially a good space in order to increase enjoyment in life. I would like to suggest the meaning, a lot for others does wonders for yourself. Concentrating on improving others' feelings in a great way to improve your own life. Concentrating what we miss out on is destructive. Please give us only positive information. Do not take up tears. Do not emphasize what we are missing. Yeah, and that's important to live in the moment. At the end of the day, we are missing
things. We are missing, social our friends and things, and eventually that will all go back to to, you know, some semblance of normality. But, you know, in order to deal with the present, we've got to, everything brings up some grief in us. So the grief of not having, you know, the social contact that we have, I mean, it's important that we acknowledge that as well, what we are missing out on.
You know, Sharona, what's
Not all
interesting
doom and
is,
gloom.
no, it's not. And I definitely miss my old world. I miss it like crazy. And I think I've got little children, and I thank God every day that this federal government made classified creche as an essential service. So I get to ship them off at creche, so I can do things like this and take care of my community on a daily basis. But what was missing before this reset was that glue, that it used to be that social fabric, and people used to, you know, be part of churches, you know, in a, you know, Jewish setting, but religious centers and synagogues and community centers, and that was sort of the cohesion of society. And over the past few decades, we've all moved away from that because we've said, you know, where do I find my community? We feel I find it right here. As a young person, if I wouldn't be involved in a community, then my community would be online. It would be on Facebook. It would be on YouTube. It would be on the different group chats on WhatsApp that I have. And we've seen society move away from that because, and hence memberships at synagogues and church, religious institutions, they've all gone down. They've all gone down. Suddenly now, when we're not together, we've gotten, what I've been hearing is zoomed out. And someone's just written iPhone to everybody. Too much time trying to connect virtually can indeed exactly have a negative impact. And that affects our brain, that affects the way we think. There's also a huge underlying issues with the internet, with cyberbullying, and that, you know, this concept called frenemies. A frenemy is somebody on Facebook, like myself, that has 4 little children, that on Sunday morning, my entire house is smashed from Shabbat, obliterated. The kids have been playing the whole Shabbat. They're not able to go out. But what do? I go on Facebook and I get my wife to take a photo of me and my 4 picturesque children sitting and eating pancakes on a Sunday morning. Now, come on. My house is smashed to smithereens. No one's packed up anything. The dishes haven't been done from Shabbat. But I've just taken this beautiful Instagrammed photo or face and put it on Instagram and Facebook of me sitting with my 4 children eating pancakes like we're on holiday in the middle of the Bahamas. Everything's fine. Someone looks at that and they have anxiety because they've gone on Facebook and they said, what? My God, how is this man able to have 4 children all dressed perfectly, eating pancakes on a Sunday morning with me saying, me with the caption, what a perfect Sunday morning with the kids.
Just a snapshot of your life.
Exactly. And this is a fake, the most fake thing I could have done. And I don't do this at all. But then suddenly these people cause me anxiety. They can cause anxiety to you, saying, well, I don't have that life. How do they have that life? And so on. So there's negative impacts of being online, of being on Zoom, and just being in a virtual world. It has incredible negative impacts on your mind, your eyesight, psychologically, and so on. Sharona, please.
No, I was just saying that for some people now during this current climate, it's their only way of connecting and you know, it's not face to face and we don't get the physical contact we crave, at least it's some way of connecting with the outside world. And you know.
And that's true. So I guess what it comes down to, or what as humans we have sometimes a hard time with, is balance. How are we able to balance the different things in our life? How am I able to balance being stuck at home all day and then walking around my block and not being too confined or feeling claustrophobic and suffering from anxiety from not having a job and not yet my Centrelink payments or my superannuation diminishing, and then on top of that, the isolation, then going onto social media and then looking at a photo from a friend and then feeling a little bad about myself, that onset of anxiety. And we're bad. We're not as human beings. It's not easy to find a certain balance, and that in our life, which is why, Sharona, your slideshow with those mechanisms and just saying enough's enough. Take a step back, do some breathing. If you're not prepared to answer the phone, don't answer the phone.
And that it's self-preservation behaviour. You'll do everything you need to do, but at the time that's right for you. And that's
Correct.
we're all very hard on ourselves sometimes, and we want to please everyone. We want to get our work done effectively and have family time and things, but it does take us a toll on our own well-being. That's why it's important to kind of self-care, nurture yourself as well, and because then, as I said, you can't give to others if you don't have anything to give.
So it's just, I think, maybe finding some sort of a system in your life that works, whether it's not being around in pajamas all day, or even on the opposite, if you enjoy being around pajamas, if that's not bothering you, that you're unemployed or that that you're not going into work and that you're happy, just being comfortable. So if you want to, some people I found feel good by getting, I spoke to a congregant the other day and he said, listen, my wage has been cut back by 30%, but I get dressed for work every day. And it's
whatever works for you.
It works for him. I've spoken to somebody else and they've said, Rabbi, I love it. I'm sitting in my pajamas all day and I'm doing whatever work I can do. So it's just about finding those little niches and just being comfortable with the situation, trying as best to be as comfortable with the situation that you find yourself in. And again,
finding a balance in your life as well. Balance is very important. There's we could be juggling 100 balls in the air, but we need to be able to give time to ourselves. And if you take too much on, we don't do things effectively, I think.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. What I've found is also during this time, Sharona, and tell me if you've seen something similar, is that people are going above and beyond. And then when
helping others,
so to assist with people want to help. They want to sort of, what can I do, Rabbi? Can I go deliver some food to people? And can I sponsor something? Where is the angle that I can help? And people that have the capacity, they want to get more involved, which is, that's real tzedakah. Tzedakah doesn't just mean writing a check for an institution or an organization.
Giving of yourself.
You're sacrificing yourself. And that's when it goes back to my original thought of Adam and Eve, that God said it's not good for people to be alone. Adam sacrificed something. What did he sacrifice, Sharona? He sacrificed his limb, his thigh. His thigh, and he created Eve. He made a sacrifice. And the Hebrew word, listen to this, the Hebrew word for Sharona.
Korban, I've learned something.
Look at that. Of course. You have children that are Talmud, children that are incredible Torah scholars. Sharona asked me not to talk too much about her, so I'm not going to talk about her. But she has children, her boys and girls.
No, it's not about me.
It's not about you, exactly. You just
talk about the topic.
The topic.
Thank you.
But is the word korban to become, which means to become sacrifice. But that also from the Hebrew word kiruv, to become close. That when we make that sacrifice and we go out of the way to assist somebody, even if we're not in the mood for it or we're not up to it at that time, but we think about it, even we're ready, there's the potential to do that. We become close to them. We become close.
So korban and karov are similar.
Exactly the same word. So we make a sacrifice to make a connection. That's sacrifice mean time. It might mean getting in your car and delivering some food. It might mean picking up that phone. And then as going back to my original thought of, you're helping yourself, and as well as this individual. Making that connection. And I think that's vital in the age and the time that we're living in. Now remember, this is historic. This is hopefully, God willing, this will be a once in a lifetime event. And who knows how much longer it will go for. But we must stay positive. We must find that balance. It's a struggle. It won't be easy, but there are sacrifices to make. And I'm sure by putting in different
Strategies.
strategies.
Self-care, helping others. I think that's
Exactly.
what,
Helping
if
ourselves
we
to
can
help
take
others.
anything from it, is look after yourself so you can give to others. So that's
No, 100%. And as I just want to reiterate that if you aren't feeling well and you are, you're having bad thoughts or whatever it is, go see your GP. You can even do it from your living room. You can call them up and say, I want a telehealth conference call. They're able to call you on Facebook. And they're able to call you on FaceTime or via video chat. It's bulk billed now. The government's opened that up. It's bulk billed, and you're able to ask them, as Sharona mentioned, for a mental health plan. That is 10 subsidized sessions seeing a psychologist. You're able also to say, sorry?
If people need more information, they can just go message through JCCV. I might be able to give them some information.
No, 100. And you said Black Dog, and we've got Lifeline.
Yeah.
We've got Black Dog Institute there, and ask people open-ended questions. Yeah, Beyond Blue. And when you are speaking to somebody, ask yourself firstly. It's healthy to get in touch with your own feelings. Check in with yourself, whether it's when you wake up in the morning or whether it's in the middle of the day. Just check in with yourself and say, well, how do I feel right now? What do I feel?
And others, there's Are You OK Day in September, which is really important to focus on the welfare of others. So we should pretend that it's Are You OK Day for ourselves and for others every day.
Exactly. And that's I can't stress that enough. That it's turbulent, it's stressful, we're anxious, but at the same time, we have the ability to work it out, to work through this. There's avenues. There's so many different ways that we can assist ourselves and the people around us. So my friends, Sharona, I guess they enjoyed listening to us. I don't know. I guess they're really enjoying our little conversation, our side.
We still got people up here.
Yeah, we've got plenty of it. We've got plenty of people just listening to us. If you are struggling financially, there's the job seeker or the job keeper, which has now been doubled, or the dole, previously known as the dole, which is now called the job seeker, is being doubled, so it's around about $1,100.
Some Jewish organisations, the Melbourne Jewish Charity Fund,
There's Jewish Care, which you're able to take in. Yeah, there's Jewish Care where you're able to take out a free interest loan up to $25,000. There are avenues, so there's no reason. Please don't lose hope.
Don't feel alone. There's, as I said, we're all in this together, as the famous quote goes. So
exactly. I originally, that was my original tagline to my congregants when they called me up, and I said, we haven't got any. Where are we going? I said, well, I've just lost my job. To go look for a new job. I didn't know what to say. Well, how do I console somebody that's going through something like this?
There are no words.
We're all going through the same thing. So if that is a little bit of solace to somebody to know that you're not the only one. Or, some people, they think that they're the only one going through whichever issue it is. They might feel like that. At the moment, my friends, we're all going through it. We're all being hit. There's not one
and
of
there's
us
help available. That's the important thing to know. There is help available.
100%. 100%.
Okay. No more questions? No one wants
Anyone else?
No.
Okay.
No?
Well, Sharona, I want to thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to next week, really. Give us a little bit of an intro to next week, Sharona.
I'm talking a bit about spiritual care. So just as the body needs some nourishment, so does the soul. So if anyone has any specific questions or areas they want me to cover next week, maybe just email the message or email JCCV. I think there's an email address there where you had to RSVP to, I think Anat, and just let me know what your particular interests are, and I'll try and cover those next week. So thank you, and hopefully you'll all attend.
Thank you both so much.
Oh, who's that?
Who's that? There's someone here.
I just felt like I needed to say thank you because I don't want you guys to feel like no one's listening to you. We're all listening. We all appreciate your advice.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Thank you.
That's really lovely. You just do take parts of this that suit you. You don't have to put everything into place, but I'm glad if we can help a few people or give them some other ways of dealing with, their self-care, then I think we've done a good job. And thank you.
Definitely have.
Appreciate
you.
Appreciate you saying that. Really, thank you. God bless.
All right, thanks, guys.
Be well.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Gubby, stay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye. Is everyone? Hi, Michelle. Hi, how are you? That's my mum.
Yeah, I'm going
They're all logging off?
They are. Pause recording. I want to stop the recording now.
Yeah, no, hi. Sorry. I just wanted to know, I just caught the tail end because I was busy before, but is there a way of seeing the slideshow?
Yeah.
It's going to be on, Anat said that they're going to put